KRON 4.
We are back on KRON 4 News Weekend. Congenital heart defects are the most common birth defects in the world. The lack of surgical training and modern medical equipment in some hospitals around the world means that many children born with a heart defect are destined to suffer and die.
A nonprofit organization based in Oakland, Heart to Heart, just celebrated 20 years of service. Medical volunteers from Heart to Heart have saved more than 7,000 lives of babies born with heart disease in Russia. And they do this through surgical education missions to underserved parts of the country. And joining us this morning are Dr. Nihilus Young and Executive Director Josie Everett of Heart to Heart. Thank you so much for joining us. It's great to see you. Nihilus, this all started 20 years ago through a 7-year-old Russian girl.
That's right.
Explain that to us.
Well, we were lucky enough to be asked to operate on this young girl who could not get treatment in Russia. This happened because a local Bay Area woman met a Russian woman on a joint film venture there. And to make a long story short, the little girl came over, her surgery was successful, and we got many requests from the then Soviet Union to come over and help. One thing led to another, and we ended up going to St. Petersburg, which was the little girl's hometown, and starting our first program there 20 years ago.
You would have thought that even in Russia they would have all of the modern medicines and the modern medical approaches of 20 years ago. What is the circumstance for Russians and why children are born with these birth defects, which you say are most common?
It is the most common birth defect in the world, and that is worldwide. It's not that the Russian children have a higher incidence of heart defects.
But they also don't obviously have all of the medical equipment and that which is needed to deal with this, the doctors.
Yeah, I'd say during the Soviet period, the 70 years, during that time they were isolated from a lot of the advances made in this country and other Western countries, and that really has made it more difficult for them to kind of catch up to where we are here.
I was able to take a trip with you back in 1990, and I was astounded at just how far behind the Russians were at the time. It seemed like not only the 1950s, but in some cases the 1850s in terms of medical technology. Where has Heart to Heart been able to help and bring them up to speed?
Well, I remember that trip very well, Marty. That was, I think, our first news coverage that we had, which was very successful for us. We have insisted, if you will, that if we're going to help them start new programs, which we've now done in 3 different cities in Russia, that the government, the local government, and the hospitals have to be able to do a good, safe job for those patients. So they have been very forthcoming with financial efforts and training efforts for their medical personnel that really have allowed us to establish state-of-the-art treatment centers in those hospitals. We're talking about operating on newborn children, and the stakes are just too high not to do a perfect job.
Josie, describe what Heart to Heart has done in order to allow this to flourish for 20 years now.
Heart to Heart has, I think, done a very good job of attracting fantastic cardiac specialists in the United States who are willing to not only to go over and do these medical missions, but to focus on teaching. So they go into this, come into the organization knowing that they're making a commitment to teaching another set of professionals how to perform these surgeries and how to take care of these children post-operatively. They're really willing to teach and make a long-term commitment.
That really brings up a great point in what Heart to Heart's trying to do in terms of making sure that the Russians are able to self-sustain once the medical team from the Bay Area leaves.
I think that program model is a very successful program model that Dr. Young and others helped develop in the early days, and we've really stuck to that. We go into a new site and we share with them that information that we want to become obsolete. We want them to be able to do beautiful surgery, and then we leave and we continue teaching in other places.
You did say this was an issue around the world, so are your eyes on some other country now, if you think that Russia has now come far enough along that you could leave them to their own?
Well, I think we've got our hand, oh, excuse me.
Whichever.
Well, I think our goal really is to help establish a teaching center of excellence in each of the 7 major regions of Russia. The Moscow region has its own, and we've set up programs now in 3 other regions. So we believe there's still several regions to go.
Yeah.
And our goal is to try to get that done over the next decade.
Oh, okay.
So as you look back at 20 years now, give us a sense, a historical perspective of where things were back in 1989. You know, the Soviet Union was still seen as the evil empire back then. How were you able to get the negotiations worked out to where a team from the United States could go to the Soviet Union and do this important work?
Well, I think we were just naive enough to have it happen for us. We made some very good friends, not only in the medical establishments that we worked in, but also in the local governments. Sort of a compelling project, I think. And we've had great relations with the Russian government, and they've always helped us out. And one thing has led to another, and we're very welcomed there now. I think they see our work as quite important for the whole country.
Correct. Josie, as we show people your website, could you very quickly tell us how you would like the public to help?
Well, donations are always fantastic.
Right.
That's probably the most challenging part of all of this. And awareness, letting people know that 85–90% of kids on the planet don't have access to modern heart care, and that this is a really good treatment to help children with this very serious disease.
Very good.
Well, congratulations on 20 years, and here's to another 20 years.
Thank you
for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
And we'll be right back.